Welcome in to the DNVR Buffs live preview of the Texas A&M game. For those of you who saw that countdown, that's why I wasn't quite prepared for all this. How long was that countdown? It was supposed to be 60 seconds. And it was what, like 6 max? Oh, you have 10. Yeah, I hear behind the camera saying it was 10. But I'm Henry Chisholm. I've got Andre Simone sitting here next to me. Woo-woo. And this is going to be a fun show. Plan for the day, we're going to start off with some stock reports, specifically talking about these Buff running backs, who we buying, who we selling, who's going to be a part of this backfield going forward. And touching on a couple other guys too. We're gonna build a game plan, kind of figure out what the Buffs can do to pull off an upset against a top 5 team in the country. Haven't done that since 2007, I believe, with Oklahoma. And then we'll close things out by making some predictions, playing some over/under, and that's the plan for today. Should be a really good time. How you doing, Dre?
Doing fantastic. Friday, man. College football Saturday. We got some NFL football yesterday. Feeling great. In my element. In my bag.
Wow. You love to hear it.
As are you?
Yeah. I feel good.
We just prepped the show, went through a nice Colorado schools versus FCS schools ranking. Very interesting power rankings that came out. I think your listeners would be very proud of where you rank the Buffs and where you didn't rank the other schools and states. So, no, I think we're doing great, Henry. I almost called you Ryan. So,
well, yeah. I'll try to take that as a compliment, I guess.
Happy Friday, my man.
Happy Friday. Want to just jump right in with these stock reports?
Yeah.
Awesome. Here we go. There's our graphic. We'll see where we start off here.
Stock it up, my man.
Brendan Lewis, the quarterback. And I think this is a tough one. We're going to start by saying stock up, stock down, and we'll figure out if we're buying or selling from there. You have to remember, though, while it wasn't like a spectacular debut performance, at the same time, he is a true freshman quarterback, technically, who's coming in and starting his first game. And so I'm not sure, compared to expectations, where going 10 of 15 for a little over 100 yards with some nice runs in there, no turnovers, fits in. What do you think? Stock up or stock down?
I mean, I think it's slightly down just because he's one of those, it's kind of like a brand new car. Once you drive it off the lot, it's going to lose some value because the potential was endless. And now we're a little more based in reality.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think, we've talked about some of the numbers on the podcast this week, but it took him, 3.78 seconds to get rid of the ball on average. That was the 6th longest out of 208 football players who threw a pass in week 1.
As raw numbers, 3.7 is not horrible.
Yeah?
Yeah, like peak Brady's in the 3.5s. I think he was in the 3.3s last night. So, I mean, that's a significant change, but 3.7s within that ballpark. We're not talking like 5.7.
Okay.
Which it felt like it was taking him a while.
It really was.
And I mean, Hank, you've been covering this team all offseason. It's kind of felt like a weird one for Lewis's stock in general because Neuer leaves and he has more of a stronghold, and then you have the transfer come in and it's more of an open battle, and the first game kind of is what it is, and there's nothing to throw you off or be disappointed.
Exactly. There was the one throw. Actually, in talking to the quarterbacks coach, Danny Langsdorff, there were 2 plays where Brendan Lewis made a mistake, he said. There was a read on a crosser that he said could have gone for 50 yards. I didn't see that, but we don't get like the all 22, so that's easy to miss. And then there was the wide open pass to Daniel Arias. It's like a bootleg to the left, which is tough to throw. He didn't set his feet, and didn't get any air on the ball, and just missed a wide open receiver who would have scored a touchdown. And that was a miss. But when you have those 2 plays that you're upset about, and Danny also says, he was seeing the pressures. He flipped 3 run plays into better run plays. He was changing protections, doing things that you want to see from a young quarterback.
Right.
The fact that he was getting some completions by like seeing what the passing concept was, having little mesh concepts, reading who was open, giving the ball, maybe not giving his receivers to make a play downfield so much. I think that's what you would prefer. out of a young quarterback rather than a guy who just chucks it deep and the receivers made plays against FCS corners?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I think what stood out to me, especially in the comparison with McCaffrey, was how much more natural Dylan, right, looked throwing on the move.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And a little more decisive and deliberate in his decision-making, just, knowing when to get out the pocket, knowing when to throw it. While Brendan, he took care. Look, it was the right performance for that opponent and that game. It also isn't. While we do this podcast, I would love to have a few more flashy, sparky type plays to point to and say, hey, this is what we can build off of. This is what's got me excited.
Exactly. And I think that maybe that's what's concerning, is that things do have to change against Texas A&M. You can't go into that super conservative saying, I need to see a receiver wide open to be willing to throw him the ball.
Right.
Because those windows, first of all, just aren't going to be there as much as they are against a team like Northern Colorado, but also you're just going to have to take some chances to put up some points to pull off an upset like this.
Yeah, and I mean, quick decision-making will be required as the athletes get bigger, more athletic, faster. Those windows start to close much quicker, so he's going to have to be more deliberate. And as a side note, wasn't too impressed in general by the game plan or,
it was very vanilla.
How he was used. Yeah, very vanilla. I would have loved to see a lot more Sam Neuer packages. Sam was, first off, so hard-nosed as a runner and a real asset in the RPO and quarterback run game. But then when he did have to pass it, he was getting it out.
Yep. For sure. So I think we agree. Stock slightly down. But are you buying or selling that stock? And we're going to say, you can buy it with the intent to hold it over the course of his career. You can buy it with the idea being it's going to be up after the Texas A&M game. You can sell it and say, I'd rather buy after the Texas A&M game,
I think I shall stay put. I would buy post the A&M game. I think that'll be your lowest, best buying point. Yeah.
I think that's probably reasonable. Yeah. There's a chance that things go well in this game and that stock price goes way up. But I think that's probably the right approach here.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's move on. Alex Fontenot. A couple of nice runs. I thought he ran well. He did what he always does, which is see the field well, have a little bit of wiggle through the hole. He did seem like maybe he was a step faster. I talked to him this fall, and he said that he'd lost a couple of pounds.
He looks a little trimmed down. Yeah.
He did. Yeah. He did. But with this backfield, I guess, first of all, stock up, stock down after that performance.
I'm going to say stock up just because it was a good reminder that, hey, this guy's a factor in this backfield as well. We get real excited about Ashad. We get real excited, rightfully so, about Jarek Broussard. Fontenot factors into that in a major way with him looking better. He's also kind of old reliable, right?
Yep.
Like, Brew looked a little more twitched up, a little faster. Ashad, I thought, looked phenomenal.
He did.
But Alex is the guy you can count on because of his vision to get into the right lane, and then he'll lean on you. He'll get that forward yardage. You're never going to get a negative play out of Fontenot.
Yep.
He'll get something useful for you that you can then come into the next down and distance and feel better about where you're at. That is huge, man. Yep. I think a guy like Carl Durrell really, really appreciates a running back like that as well.
I think so too. Yeah. I think I'm with you. Stock slightly up, but there's really two factors here that I see. First of all, Ashad did get into that game before him, and I think that does push the stock down a little bit when it does seem like at least in week one the first backup reps did go to Ashad, but also when he did get on the field, he looked good, and especially coming off the hip injury from last year. I don't want to say I had doubts. I thought that he was going to look like himself, but it does feel good to have that proven. I'm going to say stock also slightly up here. Are you buying or selling, though?
Probably buying.
Really?
Yeah, probably buying. You made a great. You just made me buy. I might have stayed put and see how this plays out another week. But you're right. He's coming off that injury and already looking that good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like guys like Landman, we're gonna have to give him a little more time as they recover. Fontenot already looking like that, encouraging.
Yep. I'm gonna sell. I think that with that stock slightly up, this is Jarek's backfield.
Yeah,
I think Ashad is gonna be that number 2, and that's not to say I don't think Alex Fontenot's not going to be a part of it. I just think that after this week, I think the stock's going to be down a little bit because we're going to see some big things from Ashad.
It is a tricky backfield to gauge. You're right. A very competitive market.
Yep.
Yeah.
Move on to the next one. Got Jarek Broussard. A bit of a slow start from Jarek. And you look at the numbers and the average, 6 yards per carry, put up 100 yards, did all the things that you want. But I think he had like 11 yards on his first 5 carries, and some of that was his fault. There was a run where he just slipped on, I think that was the second drive of the game, and it put him behind the sticks. There was a running lane there. There was a run where he should have bounced it offside, but he didn't, and that put him behind the sticks, I think, on the first drive. Right. And so there's a couple of these when you look at the slow start for Colorado. I'm not worried about those things with Jarek, but it's what happened. And from there, obviously, he breaks a big one. He turns it into a very efficient performance, picks up the touchdown. I'm going to go stock down here, though, just because it's Northern Colorado, and you kind of expect him to go for 150, 200 after what happened last year.
Jarek's problem is this is a stock that has nowhere to go but down.
Exactly.
You have absolutely peaked. And just in general, the Buffs' run game under Broussard has set such a high standard that the stock's down in general. I've talked about the quarterback run game. I think that stood out, especially with Broussard. I thought the O-line didn't look as impressive as they looked last year. That O-line was kicking ass, and you're looking at me like I might have skipped the segment, so I will shut up and not say anything more on that one.
But yeah,
it's sucked down.
It is.
For no other reason that there was nowhere to go but down. Now, let's talk in a month. Let's talk when October starts, where maybe that stock levels out a little, and now we can really start to kill it as we enter conference play again.
For sure. You buying that stock then?
I need to see how low it has dipped by that point. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't put anything past Broussard. He could go off against A&M, and now that ship sailed. I'm
gonna buy Broussard stock. I'm gonna hold on Brendan this week. I do think that Jarek does enough this week against an SEC defense to put some numbers up. And at the same time, I think it was 226 yards that Kent State ran for against this defense last week. That's promising. That's promising. There were some mistakes back there. We can move along. Last running back here, Ashad Clayton. Stock up, right?
Through the roof.
Through the
roof. It's a blue chip stock, and then you have a performance like that after we all kind of waited for a year. Through the roof.
Yep.
Through the roof. So exciting.
Yep. I think that this is a stock that I'm absolutely buying too.
Yeah.
It's going up, and I just don't want to take the risk that it goes up huge this week against A&M, and this is the breakout. That I can't afford it next week. Just
so we don't just move along real quickly, list the Louisiana running backs whose company he's in. I love hearing
it's pretty
list.
Incredible. I mean, guys out of Louisiana, Leonard Fournette, for example. You've got Alvin Kamara, who has actually spent some time with Ashad at some point. There's like some pictures on Instagram of those two together. It's an incredible Darius Geis, another one. There's who's the one? This isn't like a huge name, but he went to Tampa. What is his name? Something with an S at the end. Not Mickens. That's a different guy. But there's a whole bunch of talent at that position that goes through Louisiana, and Ashad does look like he's kind of next up there.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the great Louisiana running backs of all time.
High school,
he just looks the part. So through the roof. And part of it is that's a blue chip stock. So
Yep.
once you start to see that kind of performance, that's going to pique your interest for sure.
Yep. I'm buying that one.
Yeah, 100%.
I can't read these comments from here, Yair. Anything in there we should get to? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, do you say sell a shot all day? Wow. Wow. He'll be starting soon enough. I think that means buy then. Right? If he's going to be starting soon enough? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I would think. Giving Lewis 6 games.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. It's Lewis is going to be a tough one to gauge. What's our next stock report here? Unless there's anything in there we should get to. Pulling it up. There we go. Carson Wells. He had like the sack last week. Gets called off for a false start. Yeah. And I think it's kind of a tough one because I thought he looked good. I thought he played well. Sure. At the same time, against UNC, you expect some tackles for loss. You expect some sacks.
I thought he started off hot, and then... And how much of that is just them making a point of playing contain and making sure that Dylan didn't get out the pocket too much. But again, a guy who'd set the bar so high that it's socked down just slightly because, you do need to see a more dominant performance from Carson in a game like UNC. And, I mean, we see this from draft prospects all the time, having like 3 sack games against a lower opponent. You pad your stats a little that way, and you take care of business. In general, a bit underwhelmed by the Buffs' ability to get pressure on third down, especially while the game was still within 2-3 possessions.
Yeah, I think that Carson's stock is probably just slightly down. I'm absolutely buying it, though. I think that that's just an opportunity to do that.
Massive test this week.
It is, going up against Kenyon Green, the right tackle for the Aggies.
Yeah.
One of the best in the entire country. Potential first-round pick.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that matchup. We'll talk about some of the other matchups. Before we get into building this game plan, though, for this week, want to shout out a couple of our great sponsors.
Let's do it.
Starting with Hassel Cattle Company. They provide a bunch of the beef that we eat here. There's a whole bunch of Hassel Cattle Company Wagyu beef burgers on the menu here at the DNVR bar. If you're looking for a plan for game day, I feel like this should be your plan. You come down here at 10, have a couple drinks, hang out. I'm going to be here watching that Oregon-Ohio State game. Get on the bus at 11, go to the stadium, and watch the game, come back, get yourself a nice Wagyu beef burger when the bus gets back here. Sounds like a pretty great day. And, the Wagyu beef is a big part of that. It's so good.
Otherworldly.
It is so good. There's like 4 different burgers you can try. If you aren't coming down to the bar, you can also just order from HassleCattleCompany.com. If you use the code DNVR, you'll get 20% off and free shipping. It's a great deal, and they have all sorts of great products. Again, it's Wagyu beef. You can get the bacon, the different sausages, the beef sticks, the steaks. There's all sorts of different stuff there that you should absolutely check out.
Their motto is "Don't be a hassle. Have the blue collar Wagyu." So
there we go.
Yeah, thanks.
There we go. Also, we've got there we go. The first Sunday of the NFL season is here, and the excitement continues with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. DraftKings is giving all new customers a can't-miss offer to celebrate the return of the NFL season. Just bet $1 on any football game this weekend and receive $200 in free bets instantly, no matter what. That's right. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet at least $1 on any football game. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. And that's why it is the top-rated sportsbook in the entire country. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code DNVR to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any Week 1 game. That's promo code DNVR to get your free $200 in free bets instantly this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only, new customers only, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Booyah.
All right, let's talk about this game now. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup.
It's a tough matchup. Texas A&M, number 5 in the country, moved up this week after winning, I believe, was it 44-10 in Week 1 against Kent State. At the same time, that game was only 10-3 at halftime.
Yep.
There were some mistakes that A&M made, some drop passes, some missed passes, some interceptions thrown by the freshman quarterback. And so let's start on that side of the ball with what does Colorado have to do to kind of slow down this Texas A&M attack?
Well, it feels like it really starts with stopping the run, right?
I agree. I totally agree.
I mean, you just have to stand up to a really stout front for the Aggies, both sides of the ball.
Yep.
Jimbo's done a phenomenal job of, playing up the SEC Texas card and bringing in some high caliber athletes that fit the kind of ranking they're at in the trenches. And so if you can stop their run game and not just allow them to create push on a consistent basis, this is where, boy, you would love to have a guy like Mustafa Johnson on the front.
Exactly. That would be nice if he was back.
And I mean, you're talking about one of the best tight ends in the country, so it's not even just their O-line. It's a commitment to this and a general strength. But if you can stop that run and force this freshman quarterback,
I agree. There's potential for Colorado to win this game, especially when you look at the Colorado defense. The strength is in that front seven. Carson Wells, who we talked about, tough matchup. He's going to be going up against one of the best right tackles in the country all game. He needs to win that if Colorado's going to win this. That's one of those spots where you can win a matchup, and you need wins. You can't just hold serve all over because you're not going to beat them one-on-one across the board.
Yeah.
You've got Nate Landman. He needs to be pretty explosive up the middle. And when you look at this offense for Texas A&M, there's a few key pieces. Starting on the outside, they have two receivers that aren't proven, we'll say. Chapman and Lane.
Yeah.
Chapman's the big guy, probably going to be going up against Christian Gonzalez a lot. Lane probably going to see a lot of Mekhi Blackman. Not much to speak of so far in either of their careers, and so you don't really have the concern. The concern is from the slot in, because in the slot they're going to be playing Anais Smith. 8 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. He also plays quite a bit of running back. They'll put him in the backfield with Isaiah Spiller, potentially the best running back in the country. Some of the draft boards would say he's the best. And then
an extremely high caliber running back.
Yeah, and then you've got the tight end in Jalen Weidemeyer, who, Mel Kiper says he's the top draft tight end in the country.
Right.
And so it's figuring out how those pieces kind of in the interior, those skill interior guys are going to be able to perform and how you match up against them. You're going to be seeing a lot of Anais Smith in the slot. You're going to see some of Weidemeyer in the slot. And that's going to be Chris Miller going up against them. I talked to Mekhi Blackman a couple days ago. You can go back and listen to the DNVR Buffs podcast from 2 days ago to hear that whole conversation. Yeah. But he said they have a bunch of different things kind of drawn up for these versatile skill guys, and they're just going to have to see which ones work. Robert Barnes, the linebacker, should be back this week. According to Mekhi, we should be seeing him on Jalen Weidemeyer quite a bit. Well, if he's able to win that matchup, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to see how this defense is put together. And to me, if I were doing it, I would say, you attack those edges. They like those stretch runs. Get Spiller and he has the burst and the speed to get to the edge so quickly and then cut up whenever there's a running lane. You got to set those edges hard. And you just trust Nate to kind of control everything in the middle when they try to take advantage of the middle in the running game. From there, I think you can go man outside. I think you trust Chris Miller early on with some man coverage on Anais Smith in the slot, Barnes on Weidemeyer. and see if it works. Throw a safety deep. Let Nate kind of be a spy for Haynes King, the quarterback we haven't talked about yet.
Right.
And play those passing lanes a little bit when he's inside the pocket. Mirror him when he's outside the pocket. Play the running game when they run. See if it works.
Be an interesting approach. Do you expect to see more odd or even fronts? I know you're talking about that a little bit, how they're mixing and matching a lot more this year.
I think they're going odd.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of the odd front.
3-4, yeah.
Exactly. And
which I prefer best. That's where Carson is really in a natural role. That's where I prefer Landman, where he's got another guy in the middle paired with him. Yeah, I think it's probably a more natural fit for most of their down linemen.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
I just have some questions, like, Jalen Sami last week, I thought played really well, incredibly explosive, getting into the backfield. Was that because he's 330 pounds going up against FCS linemen? It's possible, but if he's able to get into the backfield again this week, that changes some things, because all of a sudden you have the interior pressure with Carson on one side, with Guy Thomas, who I thought played well on the other side. It's going to be fun to watch. And to talk about Haynes King a little bit, the freshman quarterback, he's coming off his first career start, and things weren't terrible. 21-33, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's the 3 interceptions that really stand out. And those interceptions primarily came when there was pressure in his face, and he just kind of panicked, tried to force the ball into a window that wasn't there. And again, talking to Mekhi Blackman, they think there's going to be some opportunities to pull some turnovers from the freshman quarterback this week. And a lot of those are going to start up front. If you can get some pass rush, he'll make some mistakes.
Well, and that, I mean, when you kind of go through your head of how can an upset happen, that's where it really starts, is you're going to have to capitalize on turnovers. You're going to have to gain some extra possessions to close that gap. For
sure. I think that's most of my thoughts on that offense. It's going to be so much fun to watch Texas A&M's offense. They just have so many different guys who do different things. They were running some triple option last week with King in the shotgun, Spiller on his left, Smith on his right, and you read option basically with Spiller going inside, running around the outside. You can pitch it to Smith. You can cut up field. They do some fun things with Jimbo Fisher, and we'll see what they can draw up to stop it.
A unique look for a Jimbo offense, who at FSU, even with Kellen Moore, that's his name? No, Kellen Mond. Kellen Moore is the Boise guy who's now the OC in
kind of looks like you.
Yeah, very much looks like me. That is... I lost my train of thoughts.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's move on to when the Buffs have the ball. I think, first of all, there isn't much you can take away from A&M's defense last week. It was pretty simple. They didn't do all that much. They threw some blitzes, a little bit of man. The zone was a little bit soft, I thought. Not much for takeaways. I guess the one player you really look at, DeMarvin Leal, nose tackle, and another potential top 10 pick, but likely first round pick. Just a freak athlete who can blow things up. I think when the Buffs get the ball, the one thing that I want to see more of is just play action bootlegs from under center, some I formation with Jaylee Stacks out there, and maybe a little bit less shotgun.
Yeah. With Leal, what you're really going to need to do is get the ball out quick. Get out of the pocket quick. He is not twitched up a lot, but he just keeps coming and coming and coming. He's so strong in his lower half that you just can't knock him down or move him off his spot. So he's just going to keep coming. So you got to keep an eye on him. He'll probably command some double teams.
Yep.
Now you're forced to, single block on the outside. That's no fun. But the encouraging part is how Kent State was able to run on these guys.
For sure. And you brought up how Colorado's offensive line was a little bit disappointing last week.
Nope.
Colby Purcell, there was one block where he was just going upfield, running back behind him, one-on-one with a linebacker, and he just whiffed. What could have been a 15-yard gain turned out to be like a 2-yard gain. Chance Lytle had like a 3-play stretch where he got beat around the edge once for a sack, got beat inside for a pressure that caused an incompletion, and then the next play got just whiffed on a block, I think,
right,
and blew up a run. There were tough plays for just about everybody on that offensive line, and there was a rotation too. I think they had probably 7 guys rotating in. It sounds like that's the plan again this week, and the reason, according to Carl Durrell, is that he just doesn't think that there's much separation between what he called the 1As and the 1Bs. I'd like to see more Casey Roddick. I thought he played well. I'd like to see Max Ray start at one of those tackle spots. Frank Phillip is going to be coming back from injury, the starting right tackle last year, either at right tackle or left tackle, I think probably next week. And so there's still some moving pieces, and it's a tough time to not really know who your 5 are.
Yeah, that's a little problematic. And frankly, I thought they looked way better running the ball and run blocking in the second half.
When a couple of those guys, Max Ray was out there, Casey Roddick in particular, I think he's got to start at this point,
right?
In my opinion.
Well, and I think the scoreboard is such a key to all of this.
Yeah.
You just cannot get down early because you got to be able to stick to the run early and often and allow Lewis to kind of find his spots, manufacture some big plays in the passing game. But that all comes off of having to defend the run. And they're just not going to commit numbers to the run unless you have a lead and you're like getting gains consistently.
Exactly. And that's what's kind of tough here is that, honestly, I kind of like Colorado's matchup running the ball. And I kind of like their matchup throwing the ball. It just comes down to whether Brendan Lewis can take advantage of that and produce in the passing game. Yeah. When they run, they ran for 280-something yards last week. It was the 3rd time in 7 games since the start of last season that Colorado's run for at least 250 yards. They should be able to run against just about anybody, with this being one of the toughest tests in the country, probably. You look at the secondary for Texas A&M, and in watching that game, there really wasn't anybody who stood out all that much. And you've got guys like Brendan Rice and Levante Chenault and Dimitri Stanley, who in theory should be able to get open against just about anybody.
And it's a lot of grad transfers and sophomores, true sophomores at cornerback for them. So it can be exploited. Like, they're inexperienced,
They are.
Like, on the outside, this is kind of an even matchup. It's in the trenches where you're really going to have to close the gap.
Yep.
And maybe you're not generating the push that they are on offense and defense, but when you do get in the backfield, you got to make it count.
Yeah.
So Carson Wells needs to rack up those sacks. You got to get the turnovers, strip fumbles, force interceptions when you do get in the quarterback's face. That's how, and break off big runs. Like, your athletes at running back are going to have to make a few more tackles miss than Isaiah Spiller and those guys do.
Exactly. And they're totally capable of that.
They are. It's a tall task, but they are capable of it.
Yep. And a lot of it is going to come down to Brendan Lewis. Is he able to?
Yes.
I think it's what Danny Langsdorff said. He made 2 mistakes last week. He said both of those were worth about 50 yards, and he said those were probably the difference between a 100-yard passing game and 200 yards. That's a big difference. And if you make just those couple of mistakes this week, that could be the difference between a win and a loss. And again, Texas A&M favored by 17 points. I can't fault Vegas for putting the line there. You look at just the talent that A&M has, the success they had last season, and just where Colorado has been as a program recently. Even if they did look good last year, they missed a couple of the best teams in the Pac-12. So we'll see. There's hope for sure to win this game.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because A&M replaced 4 of their 5 linemen. Now, the one they bring back is one of the best in the country, and a couple of those other guys are probably going to turn out to be draftable guys too. Yep. They've replaced their quarterback with a guy who's throwing some interceptions. There's a path here, and I think that it's going to be really fun to watch this game.
Well, what you said about the Buffs last year is true about A&M too. Like their record and schedule, their record looks so good, but it's they avoided most of the SEC's toughest teams last year.
They did.
So.
All right, we've got another little game we're gonna play after this. I set some over unders, rushing yards, stuff like that.
Awesome.
First though, we want to talk about Ball. Ball, you may know them from like the aerospace company. You may know them from Ball Arena, as in like where the Nuggets and Avalanche play. They've also partnered with the Buffs. If you drink beers at Buffs games, they come in those aluminum cups with the Ball logo on them and the CU logo. CU is actually the first school to partner with Ball for those. But what we're going to talk about today is the aluminum cans they make. First of all, they made over 100 billion of them last year, which is just a ridiculous number. It's like 10 or 11 for every person on the planet. And that may sound irresponsible, but 75% of the aluminum that's ever been produced is still in use today. It's incredibly sustainable. They work on sustainability in other ways too, you know, cutting emissions, doing that sort of stuff. And they are hiring at their plant in Golden. It's a 400-person plant. The Human Rights Campaign gives them a 100% corporate equity score, meaning it's a good place to work. And if you're interested, you can get more information by texting Golden to 77222.
Nice.
Again, that's Golden to 77222, or going to jobs.ball.com and searching for Golden. All right. We're jumping in now with these over-unders, which is going to be some fun. We're having a couple technical difficulties that you guys can probably see based on the screen that's mostly just black instead of seeing me and Dre.
Yeah, but we can still see you and interact with you and all that fun stuff. So
for sure.
Stay
We'll
tuned.
That figured
we'll
out
get that figured
out. These over-unders, though, we are going to start with sorry, this is the wrong graph. There we go. We're going to start with the Brendan Lewis passing yards, 199.5. Over under 199.5 passing yards for Brendan Lewis.
I think that's set way too high.
Yeah.
I'd go under.
Okay. I'm going to take the over just because I think that there's a real chance that starting halfway through the second quarter, they're throwing the ball a lot, trying to get back into the game.
Oh, well, shoot, I hadn't thought of that. I guess I was still stuck in my path to victory thoughts.
It's tough.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I think in an ideal world, he's like 15 to 20 for like
190.
Or 165 even, but they run for like 300 yards. Oh man, I'll go under. I'll go under just slightly, but you're right. That might just be an overreaction to the first game.
Yeah,
and the second game's going to play out completely different.
And the tough part is like I don't know whether Brendan was like not throwing those passes because he didn't see receivers were coming open, or he just didn't trust it and want to take the risk. And this week he's going to be willing to make some of those throws. And there's that wild card of like, there's just a different strategy when you're playing Northern Colorado versus when you play A&M. And he could look like a totally different player for that reason. Or because he has reps under his belt, or because he's had a chance to see this defense on tape and they're able to talk through the looks he's going to get and that sort of stuff. It's a tough choice though. We can move on to Jarek Broussard. Over under 5 yards per carry.
5 yards per carry. God, I think you have to go under.
You do?
If you're being realistic.
I know it's tough. It's really tough. I think I'm gonna go under 2, just because I think that this might be one of those games where he carries the ball a lot. You know, he's getting a lot of touches, and a lot of those are going to get stuffed. The question is always with him, just how many of those does he break loose and pick up big yards? It is worth noting, though, he's gone under that 3 times in his career.
Yeah.
3 unders, 4 overs.
Right.
And for his career, I guess it was 5.7 yards per carry on the season last year. More than that. It's like 6.5 or 7, 6.3.
Oh, he was an absolute killer. If he does it against this front, oh, boy.
Yeah.
But I gotta see it first.
Okay.
I'd go under.
2 more here. Or sorry, I think 3 more here. 1.5 Haynes King interceptions. Had 3 last week. Didn't play the whole game. Zach Calzada got in and threw a pick of his own.
Very well set number here.
It's a tough one.
Very well set. I'm going over on this one. I'm going over.
I am too.
NFL Stadium. Power 5 defense. Yeah, I think we go over.
Yeah. Just a little side note. In talking to Mekhi Blackman this week, he has started going with the receivers to the jugs machine after practice and catching balls. Him and Chris Miller and Mark Perry, which is not something they've done in the past. He said that, like, obviously he had the interception last week. It's like, yeah, it's paying off already.
Right.
I like it. And I don't know. Who knows? If they make some good catches, we'll know why. Next up, 185 Texas A&M rushing yards.
Oh, man. Now we're really into the winning numbers.
Yep.
I think it goes over.
I think it goes over too. It's going to be tough to stop. I mean, you got Isaiah Spiller, who's one of the best in the country. You've got they had another guy in that last game that a chain. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he's basically their third back, or who knows? Maybe he's their second now, and they'll just play Smith in the slot. But he went 12 for 124 and 2 touchdowns. Spiller went 17 for 113. It's a tough running attack to stop, and I got the over there. Last one, 4.5 Colorado tackles for loss. That includes sacks.
Does, huh?
It does. That's the way college counts it.
Oh, I forgot about that. I think we go over.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too, especially if they're going to be leaning on the running game. Haynes King likes to run around in the pocket.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be enough broken plays plus sacks with this young quarterback where.
Yep. 1 pick from Landman. I like that call. Yeah, before we make our final predictions for this game, can we run through some of these comments, Yair? Fly by Cygnus. Tell you what would be good tell you what would be good is a big return from B. Rice. Yeah, that would be
huge, man.
He had the big one last week. The only time he touched the ball. Dimitri Stanley was averaging 23 yards per punt return too. That is kind of the X factor here.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't catch a ball against UNC. That's a guy who you need to find a way to get the rock in his hands. I agree, and I think that in this game, you need to find ways to just get some easy completions for Brendan.
I was seeing another comment about Chenault and getting him more involved. I mean, there are a lot of these.
Some little slant routes. Get the ball to Brady. Like, just get him in a rhythm. Throw some screens to Brendan Rice. He can make some plays. From Woody, I heard so much about Chenault and his big steps over the summer. I'd love to actually see it tomorrow with a breakout game. It'd be a great time for it. It'd be a really great time for it. And it's been interesting with Chenault. You know, every defensive back I talked to, when I said, like, who's been toughest to cover, they all said Levante Chenault. But then you see the depth chart, and Dimitri Stanley's a starter, Brendan Rice is a starter. It's Levante Chenault or Daniel Arias, and Levante didn't do all that much in week one. So we'll see. Hopefully over on King picks. Yes, that would be that'd be big.
Be huge.
I don't know that you win without that.
No, you definitely don't. You might need more than just the 2, though.
It's possible. It's very possible.
3 from last week.
Woody, what do you guys expect from Chev? Ooh, that's a good question. I think we'll see what we usually see with Chev. A lot of spread looks, some little screens, and hopefully they work. I think you'll get some handoffs out of those screens. A lot more
Sam Neuer packages is what I'd like to see.
Yep, and I'd like to see under center too. You know, it's obvious that Brendan Lewis wants to get out of the pocket. Let him get out of the pocket within the structure of the offense. You know, not because he sits back there and just runs out and skews everything in the play.
Right.
Francois Simmons again. Camera ready for the weekend. Yeah, we're saving it up. It's going to be good to go.
Or it's just not, and it's given up,
Before we get out of here, what's your score prediction, Dre?
I think it's a little more low scoring, and the Aggies win 31-17.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm going to go 28-17. We'll see. I do think that Colorado has a real chance of winning this game. But if you have to just pick what's going to happen, I think you got to lean towards A&M just based on some of the talent they have. Same time, McChesney has the Buffs winning in double overtime. So we'll end on that note.
We'll see. Yeah.
Thanks for doing it, Dre. We'll be back after the game tomorrow. Me and Dev will be going up to the stadium. Afterward, got to get through media, coming right back to the studio, and we should be live talking about the game like 6:30 or 7 probably, depending on how long that lasts, how quickly we get through media. Thanks as always for watching. If you're listening to the podcast, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Booyah.